Interview, the full interview with State Representative Ruah Roman, streaming right now on 11 Alive Plus. You can always download it for free.
You guys get Zach's face right here.
Here I am.
And we're going to bring in some other faces right now with our political roundtable. Today we have Stephen Lawson, a Republican communications strategist who served as a senior communications advisor to House Speaker John Burns. He's also worked for Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones and Congressman Mike Collins. Democratic strategist Fred Hicks, the founder and president of the Hicks Evaluation Group, which has worked with hundreds of political campaigns for nearly 20 years. And from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, chief politics reporter Greg Bluestein, also an author and contributor to MSNBC and NBC News, all returning panelists. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us. I want to start off with the conversation that we just saw with Ms. Roman and Zach. I want to start off with you, Fred, talking about kind of her positioning. A lot of people see her as a progressive. Some people say that a moderate candidate will win the the statewide primary. But when you come to the Democratic primary, are we looking more at a moderate candidate, or do you need somebody that is a little bit more progressive? Democrats say they want a fighter right now.
Well, I think you can have both. I think you can have someone who has fiery rhetoric but has a moderate record. And I think that's what Democrats really want, and that's what we look at in the past. We look at Senator Warnock making out of his jungle primary, or Senator Ossoff when he ran against oh my gosh, when he ran against Teresa Tomlinson and Sarah Rita Miko, right? In the primary there. So you had someone who spoke really well, but was moderate with their policies. And I think that's really the combination to winning not just the Democratic primary, but winning Georgia overall in November.
And Greg, obviously you've covered Georgia politics many years. This is a season we are in where there are a lot of candidates on the Democratic side and the Republican side in the gubernatorial. And then we have the Republican Senate primary happening too. Who's the big winner when you have these big crowded primary fields?
Yeah, I mean, think about just a few cycles ago when there was almost no options, right? Herschel Walker was the steamroller who demolished his Republican competition, and of course Stacey Abrams and Senator Warnock both had their Democratic lanes to themselves, and Governor Kemp was running. In this cycle, we have at least a dozen legit contenders. On the Republican Senate side, there's no frontrunner in my view. These fundraising reports that just came out showed that both Congressman Mike Collins and former football coach Derek Dooley raised about the same money. Then you add in there Congressman Buddy Carter, who can self-fund his own campaign. Money isn't everything, but right now it's a really important early gauge of where things are. And so right now it seems like it's a free-for-all on the Republican side.
And you speak about those numbers. We have those numbers. We can pull them up so that our audience can see them as well. Stephen, let's bring you in on the conversation. Greg talked about the numbers on the Republican side, but looking at who they're going against, John Ossoff, I mean, that is a lot of money. We're talking, I believe, 21 million cash on hand. How do they, go against that?
Yeah, it's about a 10-to-1 cash advantage right now. I mean, I agree with everything Greg said. I will say that I don't think that anybody expected Congressman Collins to raise that money to basically be equal with Derek Dooley, who has the backing of Governor Kemp. So I think that's good news for his campaign. I still think that he is the odds-on favorite at this point. But again, it is very jumbled. And again, every day that goes by that there is not a coalesced, unified candidate in that race, the larger the disparity grows between Senator Ossoff's war chest and the Republican candidates.
Fred, are Democrats watching this, and sort of the inverse of exactly what Stephen said, are Democrats watching and thinking, boy, I hope this goes on as long as possible?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I hope they all raise about $2 million each, and fight it out, duke it out, go into a runoff, and just bloody themselves up. That's good for Senator Ossoff, because the thing is that Senator Ossoff is able to continue doing his job, which is working on behalf of and delivering for Georgians while they're sitting there competing over, who's going to get a spot. And so
but is there, Greg, sometimes a flip side to that too, where the primary process sharpens candidates, it draws out and makes them, being a candidate itself is a skill set. Does a competitive primary make them, whoever emerges, that much stronger?
It could. It could sharpen their rhetoric. It could help them appeal to different audiences, make them work. But Senator Ossoff is also already working, right? He's had multiple rallies. He's raising, this past quarter, as we saw those numbers, $12 million in just one quarter. That's going to be among the top in the nation for anyone, not just in Georgia, but any federal candidate.
Yeah, and Stephen, I just want to bring you in here because a big popular saying is money doesn't win campaigns, voters do. We saw this last year with Vice President Kamala Harris. We saw this with Stacey Abrams. How important is it, really?
It is very important. It's not everything, but it's a lot. And to Greg's point, when you have every statewide ballot, every statewide office on the ballot. It's incumbent on these politicians to raise the money, to break through, to get out there and make their voice heard. So it's not the end all be all, but it will be very, very important. And I do think that disparity that's growing between Senator Ossoff and the Republican candidates is something to watch. Now, I will caveat that by saying that he's going to need it because he is the most vulnerable Democrat on the map, and he is the only Democrat incumbent up in a state that Donald Trump won.
With that, we're going to take a pause here, gentlemen. We'll be right back on the other side of the commercial break. Welcome back. This week, candidates vying to unseat Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens sounded off at the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young mayoral debate. Consultant Helmut Love Domagalski, former police officer Kalima Jackson, and community advocate Eddie Andrew Meredith, they all took part. And as moderator, I asked the candidates about the incumbent who declined to participate. Many in the political circles believe that Mayor Andre Dickens is the clear frontrunner for this race. You all are hoping to unseat him. In your opinion, what did Mayor Dickens get wrong, and what would you do day one if you're elected? We'll start with Mr. Domagalski.
Yeah, I think Mayor Dickens represents what the system creates. It's a corrupt sort of system, and he's just the next puppet in that system. I think that this is about unseating that and really making a commitment to bring all the ideas to the table.
These roadways, these streets, these damaged streets, and also the water and the sewage. These are areas that need our attention, and they need repair, and they need repair as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Why don't our teachers have a place that work in the city of Atlanta? Why don't our police officers, our firefighters, why do they live outside of the city of Atlanta under our current administration? Why is that? Why can't they afford? Affordability is so important. Inflation right now in the city of Atlanta is at an all-time high.
Now, Mayor Dickens did not participate in this debate. It was represented by an empty podium per debate rules. I did reach out to the mayor's office to see why he declined. I did not receive a response. Election day is on November 4th.
Now, that same day, there are two statewide races to be decided. Both are for seats on the Public Service Commission. The PSC oversees utilities like Georgia Power and sets the rates for customers who pay for electricity. The commission also regulates broadband and railroads across Georgia. Now, here are the races on the ballot, with early voting beginning Tuesday. Even though the commission seats are separated into districts, all Georgia voters will see both races on their ballots. In District 2, Republican incumbent Tim Echols will face Democrat Alicia Johnson. And in District 3, the incumbent is Republican Fitz Johnson, whose challenger is Democrat Peter Hubbard. Well, we are back now with our panel, and there was an event Tuesday night in Forsyth County, a rally for the two Republican PSC incumbents. Greg, we know you were there as well as our crew. There's a lot of talk that night about how Republicans are bracing for this to be a low turnout election, and they say they are aware of how they need to turn out Republican voters, especially when there's nothing else statewide on the ballot. Here's what Governor Brian Kemp said at that rally Tuesday night.
That is our biggest liability in this race, as a lot of the speakers have talked about, is people just don't know what's going on. They don't know how important it is, and the Democrats want it to stay that way. The thing is, all the people standing behind me, myself and the First Lady and our family, we know how important this is.
Okay, maybe an unpopular question here, maybe a popular, depending on where you sit. I've heard a lot from folks in the political space about how the PSC race is supposed to be and might be a bellwether of what's to come in 2026. Greg, do you agree with that?
I don't know if it's a bellwether because the turnout's going to be so low, 2.5% turnout during the primary, so that's very marginal. Yeah. But Republicans see a lot of warning signs flashing. There's legit concern from senior Republicans, as you just heard from Governor Kemp, but all the way down the aisle, worry that they could lose these seats. This was the first down-ticket statewide loss for Republicans, not counting the U.S. Senate races, since 2006. And whether or not it's a bellwether, Democrats would take a victory and say it's a bellwether, right? They could use that to raise more money, to prove some momentum going into the midterms.
Stephen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bellwether, but I do think that they are facing an uphill battle. Look, on the turnout game,
The incumbents facing an
they
uphill
are.
battle.
They are. They are basically fighting a turnout battle where they are fighting hundreds of municipal elections across the state in predominantly Democrat areas that are going to be turning out Democrat votes, and it's just the two of them on the ticket. So it's a little bit of a David and Goliath, as ironic as that may be. I think it's going to be close, but look, I think if you're a Republican, you've got to get out and vote for these guys if you want to keep your energy rates the same. But it's going to be an uphill battle for sure.
And even though this is a relatively small race that has a big impact in the state, Fred, I want to bring you in here because messaging, Democrats could truly use this in the midterms as messaging.
Well, absolutely.
If they are successful, of course.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure I agree with Greg and Stephen here. I'm not sure it's a bellwether, but there are two things to keep in mind. Number one, these seats are for 6 years. So you're talking about having Democrats in very key positions for a long time.
If they win.
If they win, right? And then, well, if Stephen makes an interesting point, and a point that if I were messaging with the Democrats or for the Democrats, I would bring it out, that if you want your race to stay the same, which is after 4, 5, 6, 7 successive rate hikes that the PSC has never said no to, then yeah, vote for the two Republicans. If you want to reduce your energy race and diversify your energy portfolio, then vote a different way. But I don't know that there's been a lot of noise.
They did vote for the rate freezes. They did vote for that for the next 3 years.
For the next 4 years, after what, 5, 6 straight rate increases? And so I think at this point, unfortunately, there's not a lot of noise about either of these seats right now. So even though there's a lot of information, and then as Stephen pointed out, the natural environment would favor a Democrat, Democrats also do not have any problem skipping seats on elections, going and voting for one thing and not voting for anything else. And so it's really a toss-up. But if Democrats vote to full ballot, then we could have a good day. We as Democrats could have a good day.
Definitely have to see. On that note, we're going to take a break here. Thank you so much for being on panel this week. We'll see you on the other side of the break.